Dan Gallagher fed the dog spaghetti and meatballs for dinner.
Listen.
That is like, hey, can you have diarrhea for 4 days in our house?
This was an outrage because Adam and I paused the movie and talked about this.
Spaghetti and meatballs. Who does that? All right, Mallory Rubin is here. Wesley Morris from the New York Times.
Wow.
Hi.
He's here.
Hi.
We're doing 3 80s movies with you.
This is a dream come true.
We're putting this one up this week, and we have 2 other ones. 3 of the iconic 80s movies. Didn't mean to go backwards with you, but sometimes you got to do it. This one I've been dying to do with you. This is my dream team for Fatal Attraction. If Fennessy was here, I feel like he would be silent judging us.
I don't know if he could handle this.
He wouldn't have been able to handle it. We have a lot of stuff to go
What would the judgment be?
We're going to have to break down the sink scene. There's some stuff that it's going to get uncomfortable time to time.
I want to go frame by frame on the sink scene.
Oh.
Frame by frame.
God bless you.
I'll start here.
God bless you.
My wife, we watched this with my daughter, which I'll get into a couple of days ago.
I'm already concerned.
My wife said the moral of the story is don't cheat with a crazy person and don't bring your dog into it. Very upset about the dog, which I want to get into.
Or Quincy.
That's the moral of the story, according to my wife. When this movie hit, it tapped into a whole bunch of adultery themes, and in my opinion, really scared a lot of people.
Oh my God!
I think this movie affected more relationships than any movie ever made. I'm going to start there.
Ooh, negatively or maybe positively, like you stopped the cheating.
Well, Glenn Close famously has said before that people keep coming up to her throughout her career and saying, thank you for saving my marriage. Like, thank you for scaring me into being
a good husband or good wife.
Guided, principled partner.
Yeah.
It's your worst case scenario for my partner / spouse is away for the weekend. This person's eyeballing me a little bit. I'm just going to go with it. What's the worst thing that could happen?
Right.
This is the worst thing that could happen.
This is the worst thing that can happen because I can say, as a person who has been to many a book party, by the way, it is
wow. I didn't know where that was going for a second.
Done a lot of flirty.
Yeah,
and I always look for a ring. And what's funny is she doesn't have any girlfriends, so we don't really know what the Sex and the City version of Fatal Attraction is. But like, there's no friend to be like, didn't you say a ring or anything? Mm-hmm. Maybe she had to. She knew. There's a whole speech.
Yes, exactly.
There's the whole speech when they go and have that great. Wait, what do we do? Would we set this thing up a little bit?
No, let's go. We'll go big picture and then we'll hit some of the scenes.
So, what I think is fascinating about the effect this movie had was that it is the Time magazine cover doesn't. It's not a cheating. Cheating is bad. It's the thriller is back. Mm-hmm. Is when Michael Douglas and Glenn Close are on the cover of Time magazine in like the fall of '87. Mm-hmm. It is a real embrace of the return of a kind of movie that previously really had sort of gone out of style, or I would say graduated from one genre, one area of American culture, which was teenagers being killed for having sex, to adults made to suffer once again post-Hitchcock, but in a Hitchcock way for having sex.
And a very sexual movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They had struggled with late 70s, early 80s, trying to figure out how do we do this in a mass entertainment way.
Right.
And then this movie's like, we figured it out.
Well,
we're making this a thriller, and it's also gonna ooze sex.
Yeah, but the interesting thing though is that Glenn Close, the year before Fatal Attraction, was in Jagged Edge, which is not quite the same movie because the conceit is the contraption is different because it's set in it's one genre that gets invaded by another genre that didn't quite exist yet, right?
Do you see Jagged Edge?
Never seen
Jeff
Jagged
Bridges.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Jeff Bridges may or may not have killed his wife. Glenn Close defending him as the lawyer.
Yes.
Right.
And then falls for him. Which is a movie that has now, that sort of plot has happened in 40 movies?
Yes.
This was one of the better versions of it though.
Right. And the only point is that Glenn Close had clearly, there was a determination on somebody's part in her life that she had 3 Oscar nominations at this point, just basically for playing your mom. You're like, you're light of my life, glow of all glows, mother. And
well, let's go through that because she's Jenny Garp in World According to Garp,
yes,
which is one of my favorite characters. She got nominated for it. I love that movie. It's flawed, but I'm a huge fan of it.
Great book,
and she's great in it.
Yes.
And the book, she's such a key character in the book, and nobody really know who Glenn Close was. Does that?
Not
she's
really.
in The Big Chill.
Yes,
great movie.
She plays really the only one who seems to have a moral center in that movie, other than Kevin Kline, whose moral center is, I get to sleep with your friend because you slept with my friend.
Right.
But she's in The Natural. She's the lady in wait, which we did. We did
barn sex. From barn sex to sing sex. What an arc.
So this was a good casting. Whoa. Glenn Close is going to play a crazy permed killer.
So many of the stories around, there are a ton of casting what ifs for this movie for all of the roles, but
good one.
Including for Dan, but mostly for Alex. And a lot of the stories around Glenn Close's casting. It's kind of fascinating how candid everybody, including Glenn Close, is about whether people thought she was right for the part, specifically because of her sexuality and whether she could bring that irrepressible eroticism to the role. Nobody thought that she could, and she was determined to convince them, which is fascinating.
Who are the people?
We're getting to that.
Oh, okay. Because I actually...
We have a whole plan.
Here's the thing about me and my movies. I don't really know anything.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know about how they get made. I don't know who didn't get cast. I know some things, but with this, I don't know anything. So I'm going to learn some stuff.
So you read the same stuff I read. The underlying theme of it was we didn't feel like she was sexy enough to get this part. And her trying to prove to the producers and the casting people, I can be sexy.
Totally. And I think what's so interesting about that is, first of all, it's not subtext. It's not something you have to parse their comments to sort of find and unearth. They flat out all say it and are not embarrassed about saying it because it was really a foundational part of landing on her for the role and then making the movie. And also, I think to your point, Wesley, about whether you know that or have read up on it, it kind of doesn't matter because when you're watching the movie, it's going to be your first thought. When you see her, it's actually just better to admit that.
Would you have sex with this person? Well, is that the question?
I wouldn't put it quite that.
Would you risk your family? What is the question?
It's a little surprising that the chemistry between them is going to be that all-consuming that he's going to be willing to either upend his life or not think about whether that would upend his life. It's just a surprising pairing, but that's what makes it ultimately so compelling. Like, I'm not criticizing that. It's a compliment.
She does a good job at being like a little bit of a force of nature. And his character...
She's not just a bombshell. That's not the point.
She's intense.
Yes.
And his character is kind of a wimp. He's the guy who like can't get his umbrella open when he's outside.
Oh my God, that's a great moment.
And he's eting a bagel. He's got cheese on his nose.
Impotence comes in many forms.
And he's about to hook up with his wife, and you have to walk the dog first. Comes back, the kid's in the bed. Like he's just like typical American male who can't totally get his shit together.
Right.
And then here's Glenn Close smoking a cigarette with her crazy perm, just like eye locking him. His wife's away.
Yeah.
And he just kind of gets caught up in it. Which, by the way, has happened in a million movies. This does it probably the best.
Well, it does it the best because there's no subtext, right? It's not like it has all of the Hitchcock devices with none of the Hitchcock intellectualism, right? None of the sort of psychoanalysis. There's a very sort of blatant scene at some point where she watches Dan and Beth and Ellen in their new country house, which we can talk about later, witnesses this scene and goes and pukes. That is not subtext. That is straight up just this woman's emotions are on her sleeve at all times.
Let's audible just slightly to something you created in a Grantland piece that I've stolen from you liberally since.
Okay.
The From Hell movie trope.
Oh my God.
So this movie created the From Hell ...
Yes.
Which is like the ... from hell, which then we saw with Sleeping with the Enemy, the husband from hell.
Yes.
Hand That Rocks the Cradle, the nanny from hell. Pacific Heights, the tenant from hell.
Yeah.
Internal Affairs, the cop from hell.
Oh yeah.
The temp from hell.
This is when they start getting
the teenager from hell.
Yeah, they start getting desperate at this point.
And then they're just doing, what was the one with Ray Liotta? Domestic disturbance.
Unlawful
the stepfather
entry.
from hell.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody. And then they kind of ran out of people from hell. Mark Wahlberg, the My Daughter's Boyfriend from Hell.
Fear, yeah.
And Fear. And then it kind of came back with Gone Girl. But you love From Hell.
Oh my God,
one of your
it's
favorite
great.
movie tropes ever. And this created, I would say, 40 movies.
Well, but I would say the thing that it's kind of like, this is the Julia Roberts of the Blank from Hell genre, right? Like every attempt to to get another Julia Roberts going is just an embarrassment because we all have to admit there's only one Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about this, but why this movie is impossible to duplicate has so much to do with these intangible properties, but everything to do also with people sort of misunderstanding what about this movie as a mechanical device, why it works so well.
Why do you think it works so well, Mal? The animal crime?
No, that's tough for me, as you know. Spend a lot of time thinking about poor Whitey. Poor Whitey the rabbit. Even Quincy, who, thank God, is ultimately okay, but it's like, Dan, can you go home and walk the dog? The dog's just waiting for you while you're out fucking. Come on. Yeah. Take care of your animals.
I mean, this time, I've watched this movie maybe 25 times. This was the first time I was actually like, oh God, poor Quincy.
It's awful.
He's been in the house this whole time. He really has to go.
It's terrible. Who's feeding him? Who's walking him? Why does the movie work so well? I think because it allows you to largely guiltlessly, and let's put an asterisk on that and return to it, consume it on multiple levels. You can just have fun with it. It's a really entertaining 2 hours. Pretty crisp, moves well the whole time.
There's not a dull moment. There
really isn't.
Particularly impressive considering that the bulk of the film takes place in the same settings with the same people, kind of having the same conversation, just like a slight evolution of it. But if you want to spend a little more time thinking about it or engage with it a little more deeply, then there's a very rich and deep emotional, spiritual, and psychological text that you can parse for Alex, for Dan, for Beth, for poor Ellen.
Oh, Ellen.
I mean, what's the rest of Ellen's life like after her bunny was boiled and a person was murdered in her home while she was
watching her parents
soundly sleeping down the hall?
She was kidnapped.
Yeah, I mean,
what does this movie look like in 2019 if it comes out with the way people overreact to everything?
Everything's the same in this movie comes out? Or are you making it for 2019?
No, I'm saying this version comes out in 2019.
I have an argument for like doing this in 2019, but we can talk about that later. I actually don't even think it gets greenlit.
Yeah.
I really don't think it gets made.
I think it's...
Really? You don't think it gets greenlit?
No. I mean, for any number of reasons.
I would just say it's less Fatal Attraction and it's more Gone Girl. It's about Alex, not Dan. And it's about... And I would argue that this would maybe be if not an improvement, at least also a compelling way to parse the story, because a lot of the things that you would have to change to make the movie in 2019 probably stem from the what's aged the worst category, which we'll get to, obviously. But it would just have to be a more nuanced exploration of who she is and why she's like that. It would have to be.
It was interesting reading.
But there was criticism of that at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Which think about that. People criticizing anything in 1987. Yeah, I mean, I was impressed rereading all this stuff about how adamant Glenn Close was that this had to be a human being. And it seemed like she was really attached to this character in a way that like she still keeps stuff from the movie and still talks about it. And I think is still really conflicted about
it doesn't sit right
doing
with her.
the end, the ending, which we're going to get to later, but they changed the ending of this movie. And I think it really bothered her.
I would say with all due respect to my favorite actress, Glenn Close.
Really? Your favorite actress?
I used to, when I was a kid, I had a notebook and I used to rank every week my favorite actors and actresses by gender, which I don't know that I would do now.
Born to blog.
Born to be a Grantlander.
I would rank them every week. And most weeks I would just rate Glenn Close automatically, like whether I had seen her in a movie that month or week or not. She was just number one.
I also loved her.
And I think that the thing about the ending is that the movie isn't the hit that it was with a different ending. Because you couldn't, because part of the sale of the movie was the ending.
Right.
It was her standing. It's her, like in the trailer. She at some point is standing in the bathroom with Ann Archer, and we can talk about Ann Archer
I would
at
love
some
to.
future point.
I would
But
love to.
I mean, it just sort of a different ending. I know.
My eternal wife.
I mean, Ann Archer.
She to me, it's like a Penny Hardaway, you know,
Man.
Tim Tebow's 2011. Like, just wondering why she didn't make the Hall of Fame. I don't know what happened.
It's astonishing.
I don't know what happened.
But
anyway,
I think that the ending is what makes her a star, right? I mean, the whole thing makes her a star, but there's something about like the movie selling her out and her being on board with at least the selling out of the character
She wasn't on board with it.
Right. Well, I mean, but she shot it, right? Like, I mean, I'm not saying that
sounds like it took a lot of convincing, though.
I think it sounds like she fought it for 2 solid weeks.
But as a performance, she is in that moment.
Oh yeah.
And I think as a testament to how good she is, I mean, most people, I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for most people, but I have been devastated by the deaths of 2, quote, villains, unquote, only twice in my entire life. This movie and Misery. They're the 2 movies where the putative villain dies a horrible death, and I am devastated for said villain. And everything to do with that has to do with the woman giving the performance.
Totally.
And Glenn Close, it's funny because you only ever see Alex alone, maybe 2 or 3 times. And every time you see her alone, Dan is somewhere in our line of vision, right? Except for when she makes the phone call to get the phone number after she's been dialing and dialing and dialing. He changes the number and she calls the operator and is like, or calls information.
My place or
Remember
yours?
calling information?
Yeah.
And she's calling information. And do you know what's a raid? Like, this is the weird thing about this movie. What is a raid around her as she's making this desperate phone call to the operator to get this new number? She's got a glass of wine going.
Yeah.
She's got a bag of half-eaten Oreos.
Doritos
There's
and Haagen-Dazs.
There's a
Don't
pint
think
of
I didn't notice the
Haagen-Dazs.
snack array.
That's Tuesday night for you.
It's a normal evening in the Rubin Levine household, folks.
That's the judgiest thing in the whole movie. That's the meanest shot in the whole, like all of those things.
I will say we weren't worried about anyone's feelings in the 1980s. So a lot of the arguments that would have come out of this movie, especially now in the hysterical Twitter era, nobody was even thinking that way. You went to this movie and you're like, oh man, that guy made a mistake. Wow, he's really going to pay for it. I hope he can save his family. It was like Jaws. Like at some point when you're
that's a great comparison.
The audience is watching this, and Glenn Close is now the shark in Jaws, and Michael Douglas is Roy Scheider trying to get his way out of it.
Yep.
I think
that's a disturbingly great comparison.
I think nowadays there would be this whole mental health argument that sprung up for it.
Yeah.
But I also think her killing the bunny would work against her in some things too. It would just be more complicated, and people being so upset that she killed a pet.
Terrible.
And so people care about pets more than human beings.
Well, that was a thing at the time though too, right? Like, I mean, people were actually, when she throws acid on his Volvo, I can remember in the theater as an 11-year-old kid, he puts the rabbit down
near the acid.
Oh my God.
And everybody in the theater's like, oh,
I know.
Dad, pick up the cage.
Breathe it in the fumes. It's very alarming.
I remember thinking,
I was more upset
rabbits
about the
gonna
Volvo. I like those
Volvo's
early
great
80s
car.
Volvos. Were really
Yeah,
nice.
But this is
Great
a movie
car.
with two destroyed cars.
Can we talk about Michael Douglas's incredible 1985 to 97 run really
Yeah.
quickly?
Yeah.
You know how I feel about Michael Douglas.
He is not to be
This
topped.
is a 12 and a half year run. Romancing the Stone, Jewel of the Now, Fatal Attraction, Wall Street, Black Rain, War of the Roses, Basic Instinct, Falling Down, Disclosure, American President, Ghost in the Darkness, The Game.
Strong.
Nobody had a better sense of reading a script in the bathtub at 11:30 at night and being like, oh, this will be a hit. I'll do this one. Like his batting average was the highest.
Well,
maybe Tom Cruise, but I don't even think Tom Cruise had a batting average like that. To know what projects to do.
Yeah.
Oh, people will like this. I'll do it. And then it was also like, who's his competition for those 12 years?
This is
for the imperiled American male.
Well, what's interesting to me, I'm actually writing it. I know I've told you this. I've been struggling for like 18 months on this Michael Douglas thing that really is should not be that hard to do.
In your book?
No, my book has nothing to do with Michael Douglas. Oh, that'd be interesting. No, I've been struggling with, I just wanted to write a very quick, simple thing about Michael Douglas. I watched all the movies. Here's what I determined of Michael Douglas. Michael Douglas is Tom Hanks. We sort of romantic, like we have this idea, this is classic American, right? Classic American delusion. We hold up Tom Hanks as the person, like as our everyman, as the person that we think we are. But if you think about it, and not too hard actually, Michael Douglas is the person we actually are. We actually have been. He's never the nicest person, the best person, the most decent person. Even when he's the president of the United States of America, he's still kind of, I mean, he's not an asshole, but he does a dickish thing to Sidney in The American President that's not cool. And
he does a good job of being complicated.
Right. But here's the thing. He's not acting, like, do you know how some actors will act the complication? Like if you give Daniel Day-Lewis the part, he'll be acting. I mean, this is to take nothing away from how great Daniel Day-Lewis is, but Michael Douglas has an effortlessness that, you know, the scene in Fatal Attraction where he goes over to Alex's house and he chokes her, and then there's a shot. I know he chokes Alex, and she's on the floor.
I thought you said it so casually,
right? Well, I mean, that's the sort of pernicious thing about this movie.
It's a thriller,
and there's a shot from the floor up to his face.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't know how, this is not acting at this point for him. He
wants to kill her.
He wants to, but not only that, but it's that dumbfounded look he has like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Well, the other thing is when she comes to his office after the suicide attempt.
In the leather trench coat.
And he kind of sees her and he has
those shoulder pads.
That coat.
And the way he handles that scene, that's why Michael Douglas had such a great run.
Right.
Because he can be the guy who just strangled you, but he could also be the guy who's like, oh, fuck, hey, let's go in my office. Let me give you your post-suicide attempt hug. And yeah, okay, please never come here again.
Well,
right, yeah.
To Wesley's point, the reason that shot of his face stands out so starkly is because that is one of the only moments in this movie, despite all of the oddities and horrors at play, where it feels like he has moved beyond the bounds of normal behavior, or whatever normal would look like for him or for any person. Like at the end of the day, even when he's transgressing, it's a thing that people do, right? It shouldn't be, but it's a thing that people do. That's something that is relatable. And he's a movie star, but he's relatable. He's smarmy and gross, and you kind of hate him, but you're also sort of drawn to him.
Oh
he's
my
magnetic
God. You're
and
more
repellent.
than sort of drawn.
Yeah, he's magnetic and repellent all at once.
So Michael Douglas, attracted to him? Would you have made out with Michael Douglas?
Yes.
Never personally,
Yes.
to my taste, my
Wes was in.
mom, like a top 2 or 3 movie star.
Same for my mom,
Up
too.
there with
Yeah.
Harrison
Huge
Ford.
with the moms.
Harrison Ford, Michael Douglas, and Richard Gere.
Harrison
were my
Ford
mom's
was the
top
guy you
3.
married. Michael Douglas was the guy you had the affair with, and then
Well, this is the
You
thing
hit
about
his
Michael
stuff.
Douglas's stardom, right? Like he could either be a lawyer or he could be an electrician. It could go either way.
or he could be Gordon Gekko.
Or he could be right. I mean, that's sort of more.
Or
in
he
the
could be
law
the bad
end
boy
of
cop.
things.
See, I always felt like when he was trying to be the bad boy cop, like in Black Rain or even
Rain,
Basic Instinct, it was
Yeah.
like him trying to push against I'm kind of the toothless, imperiled American male who things work out.
Right. But even his obsession with Catherine Trammell, with Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct, is that same kind of vulnerability where he's crossed a line and he has a moment in his persona where he's like, oh shit, I think I'm in some territory that I did not understand I was in.
That's key, though, because
Right.
for him, the oh shit moments tend to stem from a place of self-preservation,
Yes.
not a sincere moral
Oh
insight
no. Oh no.
at
no.
all. And that's part of the appeal. That's
Right.
part of what makes it
But the
interesting to
women,
watch.
the great thing about him and women, though, is that he has never taken a part with a woman who didn't always have some upper hand.
Mhm.
True.
And what he needs
Kathleen
as a
Turner,
star,
too, in Romancing
right.
Stone.
What he needs as a star is a movie that's on his side. Because he's such an interesting star because he doesn't need as a star to win any scene or any fight because he knows and he understands the misogyny of the movie making apparatus. He knows the movie's always going to have his back. He knows no movie he stars in is ever going to let the woman have the last word, except for The War of the Roses, which their friend directed, Danny DeVito.
Well, and then it's funny. Goldman wrote a whole chapter about Ghost in the Darkness, that a movie that he was really attached to, and then Michael Douglas became
the
involved.
one movie he shouldn't have made.
And then he decided, I'm going to be the star.
Right.
Now, this was 12 years into his epic run. And that was the first time he's like, let's cater the movie to me.
Right.
Instead of
Africa.
This movie works. Yeah, he just was miscast. I had this written down. We might as well ask it now. We don't have a Michael Douglas in 2019, or do we? Who is it?
No, there's no Michael
Have we had one
Douglas?
since?
No.
Who should have studied? You remember Will Smith?
I was just about to say Will Smith could have taken this turn.
Will Smith.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't happen, obviously. Will Smith had other priorities.
Who would you have wanted to be Michael Douglas in 2019, Mal?
This is tough.
Like, could this have been Chris Evans if he didn't go the superhero route?
We don't know.
No,
because
he's too typically leading man.
We'd also, I'm sorry, this is perfectly obvious to say, but we don't have sex anymore. We don't have sex. Nobody's fucking. There's no fucking.
Have you watched Euphoria?
I'm sorry, but
It's all happening on TV, man.
Okay, but it's
pretty dark.
Fucking with punishment, right? And there's no
That's on the poster.
Nobody is embodying sex, right? Nobody is accidentally. Michael Douglas is not the embodiment of sex or sexiness. The thing that makes him like such an appealing movie star is he is always taking parts that put him in environments that normal men find themselves.
You know who it is on TV? Not in the movies. I will not go so far as to say it on the movie star level, but it's Dominic West for TV.
Oh, God.
I like it. I like it.
Literally,
it's a poor
in the
man's
affair.
Michael Douglas.
Oh my God, that's an impoverished man's Michael Douglas.
We should
That's
mention
tough.
Adrian Lin, the director, because you talked about how nobody has sex anymore. That might be one of the reasons Adrian Lin isn't exactly red hot these days. He dabbled. This is my mom's favorite director, which should tell you a lot about my mom and my
I knew I
relationship
loved
with
her for a reason.
Yeah, her favorite movie ever is
Amazing.
9.5 Weeks,
Incredible.
which I don't know what to tell you. But he made that movie, he made this movie, and then Unfaithful with Diane Lane,
yeah.
which
Indecent Proposal.
Indecent Proposal.
Yeah.
He dabbles in the I shouldn't have sex with this person, but I did, and now I'm dealing with the ramifications of it. It's a big Adrian Lin theme.
Yeah.
And a personal favorite of Mallory's.
Wait,
Sex,
for pop culture.
The Sing Sex he also has said was inspired by a real moment in his life.
Really?
I mean,
Yeah, that's out there.
it's fascinating. Also, but think about like just to talk about the excellence of this movie and like the kind of person that Adrian Lyne is, like where he
Is it Line or Lynn?
it's Lyne.
Okay, my bad.
I didn't notice.
Thought it was Lynn.
So he
Lyne.
Adrian Line?
yeah, but the thing about him is he's not very deep, right? Like, and so he came up in this TV commercial making era, right? Like he and the Scott brothers, Tony and Ridley,
Yeah.
these are not sophisticated, like thematic or ideological or sort of moral filmmakers. They're just really great. Not just, I mean, it's so much of what's great about them or can be great about them when they are great is they're really great about understanding how to build sensation and like to like build pleasure and build a movie that is going somewhere to make you as happy as or as like to get the most out of an audience as a movie can get.
Right.
Do you think he cares about morality?
No, I mean,
because
well,
my take would be not really. I think he just cares more about conflict.
he also made that Showtime Lolita with Jeremy Irons and oh God, what was that? What's the woman's name?
Dominique Swain.
Dominique Swain. Oh, look at you.
Yeah, I said Adrian Lyne's name wrong, but I got Dominique Swain.
Big Lolita scholar over
so
here.
This movie got a lot of Oscar nominations.
Yes.
6.
Best Picture, Actress, Supporting Actress, our girl Ann Archer, Director, Screenplay, Editing.
All the right ones. The right ones.
This shocked me. It was the highest grossing film of 1987.
Yep.
It made $320 million.
$14 million
on a $14
budget.
million budget.
Yep.
The best actress that year, just going through this quick.
Cher
Cher wins for Moonstruck.
Cher
Glenn Close, Holly Hunter for Broadcast News.
That was a great. It's the best actress here.
Meryl Streep for Ironwood and Sally Kirkland for Anna. I don't remember that movie.
Yeah, she's Sally
But man,
Kirkland.
that is a murderer's row.
loaded.
Cher winning that. I don't know if that would happen again. I actually think Holly Hunter would win again if we did that over again. No?
I don't know. I feel like everything worked out the way it should have, right?
Okay.
Because
And yet Glenn is still waiting for her Oscar.
Just don't even.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's tough. So Roger Ebert,
Oh boy.
2.5 stars.
Oh boy.
What's his issue?
He said, Fatal Attraction is a spellbinding psychological thriller that could have been a great movie if the filmmakers had not thrown character and plausibility to the winds in the last minutes to give us their version of a grown-up Friday the 13th. I knew you would like that take.
Interesting.
That's fair. That's fair.
So how many stars does he give it if they don't change the ending?
He said it's a shame that the film's potential for greatness was so blatantly compromised. Give it 3 stars, Roger. It's a fucking good movie. Settle down. Settle down with your blatantly compromised. All right. So I'm not sure how many people know this. I feel like a lot of people do. I didn't know until the Laserdisc came out, and then somebody wrote about it. And then I think
he just said Laserdisc.
Laserdisc. Was that what it's called?
Yeah, of course. I just haven't heard that word in a while.
I think I want to say Showtime ran the movie and they ran the deleted ending after, and it was the first time I'd seen it. And it was like somebody took the top of my head off, took my brain out, and spun it around and put it back in. So they spent $1.3 million reshooting it. And why they reshot it was the original ending. And you can see it because there's the seeds of it in the movie.
Yep.
When he goes to kill her, he decides not to, and she comes at him with the knife.
Right.
He disarms her of the knife.
Touches it, gets those
Puts it
fingerprints
down,
all over it.
close up of the knife. And then what happens?
Also, the Madame Butterfly plot, which is overt foreshadowing for the ending that they originally filmed.
So what happens, she kills herself with the knife and makes it seem like Dan murdered her. The police show up at his house. He's like, what's going on? They're like, where were you last night? He was like, I went in Alex. What happened? She's dead. You don't think I killed her, did you? It's like, well, yeah, actually we do. The apartment was a mess. Your fingerprints are everywhere. We kind of think you might have murdered her.
Oh, man.
And then the wife, the great Ann Archer, runs up to the attic to find somebody's phone number, sees the Play Me Alex tape that she leaves in the car, puts it in, plays it, and it's Alex saying, I'm going to kill myself if you don't, blah, blah, blah. She grabs the tape, runs out, and we're supposed to think he got off.
Right.
The test audiences saw that, and they were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Right. They wanted her to pay.
No.
Yeah.
I hate this. You have to fix this.
But we're a capitalist punishment society. Like, the only justice that we feel is served in a movie like this is to, like, be able to cheer for the demise of the person we think
But at the
is
hands
the
of
villain.
who?
That's the thing.
They
Because
wanted
she
the wife to kill her.
Right.
She
Yes.
dies in both endings. It's about who's in control.
But
It's
the
about who has
capital
agency.
punishment part is the thing that I'm talking about. She, like, the agent, like Alex's choice to kill herself is not satisfying because we are bloodthirsty people who want moral justice. And the only moral justice, like in a scenario like this, is for Ann Archer's character, Beth, the wife, to do the killing.
FYI, cheering in the theater when I saw this.
Yeah, I can believe cheering
Ann
when
Archer
I saw
kills.
it. That's
Yeah.
sort of what upset me the most, right? Because I did not feel what the audience felt. I mean, I did.
Wesley sobbing in the theater.
I am. Like, that in Misery just opened tears. And I can remember feeling so alienated from the response to Alex's being shot.
Right.
And I just was like, there must be something wrong with me.
So Glenn Close said she fought against it because she thought her character would self-destruct and commit suicide. She fought against it for 2 weeks. She said, I wasn't playing a cliche. I was playing a very specific, deeply disturbed, fragile human being who I'd grown to love. But she does agree that the film would not have been as successful because she thought it gave the audience, quote, a sense of catharsis, a hope that somehow the family unit would survive the nightmare. You agree with this?
I just think it's fascinating to consider it from all three primary characters' point of view, or to look at each of them as a lens, because Alex is the most consequential figure to consider, but it's also about Beth and specifically about Dan, and the fact that audiences cared so much more about Alex being punished or having to pay than about Dan having to pay when he cheats and threatens his family. we'll obviously discuss Alex's psychology and behavior at length over the course of the podcast, but put that aside for a second, still has no interest in taking responsibility for the fact that he impregnated her. Breaks into her apartment.
He said he would pay.
Breaking and entering, yeah, for the abortion, not
What
for
a
raising
guy.
the child.
What a guy.
I'll cut you a check right now.
Breaking and entering, physically abusive.
Breaking and entering twice.
Yes. Assaults her, etc. This is not a person that audiences should be
Right.
rooting
So this
for.
is so
That's
this
alarming.
This is what I'm saying about the
It's a tough one.
This is why Michael Douglas never really had to be afraid of taking risks, right? Like he never had to be afraid of taking a risk because I don't know if he understood this, but I mean, he's a person who grew up in the movies. His dad has Kirk Douglas. Like he knows.
Well, he was also a really legitimately successful producer.
Yes.
In the
also,
70s
yes,
and early
he also
80s.
understands what makes a successful movie. But
Which
I
is-
also think
yeah.
that just the inherent misogyny of the movies and the inherent misogyny of this culture make it really hard to think about the idea that Dan might also have a mental illness, right? That Dan might also be crazy. And it isn't just that this alleged crazy woman is making Dan crazy, but there's a part of Dan that gets unlocked by this affair
Yeah.
that previously had never been accessed
Mhm.
by all of the niceness and like what would the Ethan Allen-ness of
Right.
the life that he's built with this other woman. And I think the thing that's so electrifying about that moment where they see each other at the party, he's a mark in some way, right? This is like this is the beginning of a Preston Sturges movie that takes a terrible turn into Hitchcock. They meet at this party. She's obviously very, very
She's
smart.
throwing it out there.
Right. Well, I mean, think about what she wears to the party.
Mhm.
She's definitely the hottest dressed woman at this party.
I was going to say the hottest dressed book editor in a long time.
and ever, right? Ever.
That's not exactly a Lolita industry.
But if you think about what Beth and Hildy, her best friend, who's played
Mhm.
by Ellen Foley, who was really a thing in the late 1980s and is just wonderful. Anyway, she and Hildy are trying to figure out what to wear to this thing. What do you think Alex's conversations were? Nope, got this.
Mhm.
Showing up in whoever made that dress.
Mhm.
I think that there's just something about that woman needing to connect to something. And she knew, like, in the way that I know as a person who's picked people up. I kind of
What?
know. Oh my God, yes. I can kind of, for my purposes, I can tell what I'm gonna get in some
Mhm.
ways, or like what I want or what I think is happening with this person, right?
And she sees this dude sits next to him. Smooth, but not really that smooth.
oh no,
A little awkward.
yes,
and she's
yes.
like, this is somebody I
Yep.
could
ding 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 ding
definitely
ding.
control a little
Right.
bit. Have
Again,
fun.
he has cream cheese on his nose.
She couldn't have.
in the
She
second
couldn't have done
meeting.
this to Clint Eastwood. She could. I mean, it would have been an interesting challenge, given Clint Eastwood having made Play Misty for Me, which is a movie that
Right.
comes
we
up
have to talk about
in
that.
the conversation around Fatal Attraction.
But so to tap that theme from within the movie into the theme about how audiences perceive the ending, it's the same idea. Control is the key in all of it, because the reason that people preferred or the audience wanted this ending and not the one that was originally filmed is because it allows you to basically say, okay, if I made these mistakes, my life could continue. My life could
Mhm.
continue.
This-
I could close.
This is because
that loop.
men control Hollywood.
Right.
This is written and directed by two men. I just
It's
don't.
like, thank God. It
Right.
ends with
Thank God.
they're in their nice little house in Bedford. They show the picture of the two with
last
the kid.
shot is
and
the
it's like,
family
thank
picture.
God that lady's out of our life.
Right.
Yep.
This was a
This all
blip.
worked out. Yeah.
This was a blip.
I don't think it's a total blip for Ann Archer, because I think about 3 weeks later they're at dinner and she has 2 glasses of red wine and really lays into him and maybe throws a glass of wine in his face, and then they probably go on a hiatus.
Right, because interestingly,
so.
like she is blameless in this, right? Like another
Oh, yeah.
movie, like a more hateful movie, would have also blamed her for. I mean, it's true that if you were making some kind of feminist argument, like she doesn't work. Her job is homemaker and mom, and she spends a lot of time in her family structure, right?
Don't you dare besmirch anything about Ann Archer in this movie.
I can't. It's not
100%
possible.
approval rating.
It's
She's
not
an
possible.
absolute icon.
She's
The most
one of my-
traumatizing thing for this movie for me is that anyone cheated on Ann Archer.
Right. Well,
Yes.
that's
And that was it's so upsetting. What are you doing?
But
You
isn't
won the
that the
lottery.
thing that's
She's
satisfying
incredible.
about her killing
Incredible.
Alex, right?
Yeah.
Is that she is perfect. She's the perfect wife. She's utterly tolerant. She's sweet. And unlike a lot of these movie wives in the 80s, it was interesting because all the movie wives really were sexy. She's sexy. And it's
Yes.
not like,
She's
it's not
gorgeous.
a mystery. It's not a mystery about why they're together, right? I mean, she obviously represents some ideal, but there's something kind of seedy and Michael Douglas has a quality that is not Ethan Allen at all, right? You know, she made that home.
There's no reason for him to stray. None that we can see, at least.
Well, I think actually the
There is
reason,
a reason though.
right,
He's
right,
kind of a loser.
right.
Well, but in terms,
he's
of what
he's not cool enough. He's like he can't believe he can get this book editor at the bar who's interested in him.
I don't know.
That's the
I
real
think
reason.
it's a class issue. I feel like we never meet anybody in his family because I think that like.
Oh, you think he married
and
into
Michael
a wealthier
Douglas-
family?
Michael Douglas in movies never has parents. He has never had parents. Partly it could be because like
Everybody
the
knows
only
his
thing you're
actual
probably
dad.
thinking
Yeah.
about Kirk Douglas, but I also think you would have to be able to explain how that person who looks like that winds up. Yeah, you just can't.
This
you
is
can't
the affair
find
with
parents
Dominic
for him.
West. Wait,
Right?
we're way behind schedule. We got to get to the categories. We're 45 minutes in. Categories: most rewatchable scene. Mallory, sink sex scene. Go.
Come on. I mean, this is obviously the winner, right?
Well, we have more scenes, but
We can talk about all of them, but
why you were
You keep going.
She was texting me freeze frame pictures from the sink sex scene about the
Come on,
plates.
break it down. Break it down.
You love the meticulousness of how they put the plates in the sink. What was it that really got it for you?
it is so weird and riveting.
Mm.
You're like, I cannot believe what I'm watching. The things that they are doing.
Oh, the water.
Yes.
The water.
So, right. Plops her down on the sink.
Yeah.
She turns on the water, reaches behind her, turns on the water. There are dirty dishes everywhere. She basically creates a bidet in the sink.
Yeah.
Right? Freshen it up a little bit,
Yep.
splash in the water, getting clean. Then changes the trajectory of the water, brings it around the front, starts putting it in his mouth. Hydration during
Yeah.
sex, important.
And the look on his face, during all of this sex, Michael Douglas makes the best sex faces in the history. Like he could teach a pornography class on like just reacting to having had hot sex with women.
Yeah,
So are
he's
we
very
suppo-
comfortable. at
Are
the
we
moment.
supposed to gather Ann Archer maybe not the most exciting sex? The Beth Gallagher character?
But we never see them have it, so we don't know. But clearly, Alex Forrest has unlocked something
she's
in
tapped
this
into
person.
something.
Right.
Yeah, in the this is a separate
Dirty dishes and water. It's the key to
separate
his heart.
sexual sequence, but the elevator blowjob.
Yeah.
You know, she's like, "Have you done it in an elevator before?" And he's like,
Okay,
Not in a
Mallory,
while.
you need to do this some justice. She is like,
"Have you done it?"
have you ever done it in an elevator? Blah, blah, blah. I'll bet you have it.
Yeah,
And she like
that's great.
So much about what's great about Glenn Close in this movie is physical. The way she understands and can command her space within a frame, the way she closes that elevator gate
Yes.
is so hot.
Also one of the things I love about it, the whole sequence from the dinner where they basically discuss calmly, rationally whether they are going to
Right.
have an affair,
Can
and
I just
then
read
the
you some of the dialogue? from that?
animalistic nature of the sex scenes themselves, like that juxtaposition is really stark. There's
I don't
something
think
very
having dinner
deliberate.
with anybody is a crime. And then she says, "Not yet,"
Yeah,
with a laugh.
subtle.
Was that the one? Are you discreet?
Yes,
Mhm.
that's the same conversation.
Me
It's
too.
actually great, right?
I had that written down as a rewatchable scene because
It's great.
so it's a complicated scene too for the rest of the movie because she's basically laying it out there. We're both adults.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have some fun. No strings attached. So when he says that
Yes.
later, it's actually like that scene does set up. She's going,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
There
let's,
is an-
let's have fun tonight and there'll be no repercussions.
there is an understanding that they enter into.
That's
what the tension stems from.
It's an unwritten contract.
Yes.
Right.
The fact that he is basically stupid enough to believe that that's possible, to think that you could do that and that there wouldn't be any consequences, that you could just walk away.
I think this is why Michael Douglas characters never have any parents. It's because I think it's because like you would just understand that the father there would just have to be some explanation that the father would give to a Michael Douglas character about the situation a Michael Douglas character has found himself in. Mm-hmm. And I think in this movie, the dad would be like, let me tell you about something that happened in 1979.
Yeah. There is the great moment when he visits Beth in the hospital after her car accident.
And the dad
Beth's
is in there.
father
Yeah.
is
I had that written down for
totally
what's age the best.
glaring at him like,
that would have been me.
Motherfucker.
That would have been me. Now that my daughter's dating, I plan on having that look at a lot of people.
But back to the sink sex.
Yeah.
She's feeding him
Back
the water.
to the sink sex. This is why we couldn't invite Sean.
Pouring it onto herself, pulling her shirt over. We're getting a little bit of like a wet t-shirt or wet white blouse action going on. Pulling her shirt off as it's drenched. Then they move. There's the great like, let's kind of walk as we're fucking.
Sex waddle.
You're worried that they're going to fall. You're worried about their safety. They make it to the bed eventually. And then there is the absolutely iconic post-coital conversation where she compliments him on the sex, clearly satisfied, and he says, and I turned on closed captioning to make sure that I had this correct. Oh, thank God, thank God. Like,
yeah. Yep, I wrote that down.
He's so happy that he...
What does that even mean?
I think it means that if he had not brought her to climax or the sex had not been good, then it wouldn't have been worth it to have the affair. Yep. But he feels good about himself as a man. He feels validated as a man and a sexual partner in that moment.
I on-demanded this movie and didn't realize I on-demanded the Ovation TV version of it.
Oh.
So they're about to have sex and then all of a sudden they're in bed and I'm like,
oh no.
Wait a second. And
there's an airplane version of this?
Yeah, there's an airplane version on demand.
Why even
Which
watch?
is probably the one I should have shown my daughter.
Wait, can I just say one thing about just
more sink sex?
Well, just that whole sequence, right? Because it isn't just, think about the thing that she unlocks in him and think about the contrast we're supposed to experience with his life with Beth, which at this point is what, like 10 years old, maybe a little bit longer than that. He says how long they've been married.
9 years, I believe.
So they meet at that party. They meet at that meeting. She tells him about the bagel. His umbrella won't open. She gives him the umbrella. She goes, I know a great place. What did they do?
Umbrella.
How do they get to that restaurant? They fucking sprint. She is such a physical person. And it's irresistible. Even when she's sitting still, there's something about her gravitational force that is pulling him in.
Yes.
So after that, what do? They go home. They're cut from the restaurant when she's like, we're two consenting adults. I don't see what the problem is. I don't know what the deal is. Let's just go home. They do it. They go home. They're doing the thing on the sink. He picks her up and grabs her ass and carries her into the bedroom. When they're done having sex, he unpeels himself. It's like no post-coital you've ever seen. He has unpeeled himself from her. And the look, like the demented look of bliss on his face, it's just classic Michael Douglas. Then she says,
how much energy do you have?
How much energy do you have, MF? Because we're going to go salsa
She's ready to
dancing
go.
right the F now. We're going out.
Yep.
And so she's like spinning him around in some salsa club. And he is he's like blown away. Then they get home and he's like, oh.
No, she blows him in the elevator.
Oh, the elevator. Then the elevator, that great closing of the gate, she gives him the blowjob. They get to her front door and he's like, I gotta go home. I'm totally wiped out. And she's like, the fuck you are.
I gotta go
Get
do
in
work.
here, yo.
Yeah.
And she brings him back in. It's like his mind is blown in so many ways. And the thing that is annoying to me about this movie, the one thing is that, because I've been Dan. I've never cheated, but I mean, I have been a person who just wanted to extract myself from a situation that I've wrung every last drop out of and have nothing left to give. And the thing about Alex is she's got boundless energy, right? And she is insatiable, not just sexually, but for life.
Right.
This is a woman who has an appetite for being alive, which is why I really don't buy the Madame Butterfly dismount.
Yeah, that's fair.
I feel like both those endings are a disservice to this character.
Mhm.
And the thing that makes her so seductive, not just to Michael Douglas, but to the world. Glenn Close became a star in this part because the performance is full of life.
He likes Glenn Close. We have to keep
She's
going.
great.
Another rewatchable scene.
That was as
That was a
riveting
great
as
monologue.
the sink
It was a
sex.
good
Oh my
monologue.
God.
The second date at the park with the dog. He calls her, I got to go to work, or I got to walk my dog. And she says, bring the dog. I love animals.
Yeah.
I'm a great cook.
Awful.
It's great.
Just
It's
maybe
great.
the most painful foreshadowing in cinematic history.
So he decides this person he had a one-nighter with, his wife is still away. She's staying in the country for an extra day. What could go wrong? I'm going to bring my dog, my white lab Quincy, on my park date with this mistress that I met 24 hours ago. My wife thought this was a bigger violation than the cheating.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was like, if you ever cheated on me, first of all, I'd kill you. But secondly, if you ever brought like Willie over to the
Right.
lady's house, then I would like mutilate you and kill you.
The cheating is obviously unforgivable, but the justification for the cheating is, the mind and the heart are not the body. Basically, that it is just about the fix and the thrill. That's why he wants to get out of there so quickly, because once you stay beyond that initial thrill, what is it? It's just real life. Anybody who's married knows that the thrill is very, very temporary. Talk about a blip. The rest of it is just eternity, right?
Right.
But when you bring the dog, when you bring your work, you're bringing your life, the heart of your life
Rough move by
into
him.
this other person's realm. And then there are no more boundaries. Then you've lost the ability to say this was just this one moment in time.
So a couple other key points. You mentioned Glenn Close's sneaky athleticism in this movie.
Yes.
Great arm. Whips
Yeah.
the dog, like little
Yeah.
sidearm, but like with some velocity.
She should have played catch in the natural at the
Yeah,
end.
no, it's
Yeah,
for
she would've
real.
better. And then he falls down
Yeah.
and she thinks
Fake
he's
smart.
having a heart
Oh,
attack.
yeah.
Incredible sprinting
she-
form by him.
Yeah.
Like really,
No,
really good athletic
The
performance by her.
physicality of this movie is
So then he makes the heart attack thing.
Mhm.
And then she said, my father died that way.
Right.
And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And she's like, no, just kidding. He's alive in Arizona.
Yeah.
I'm out right there. I'm like, that's weird. I'm done.
But
I'm cutting off all ties.
crucially,
he
that
Yeah,
was
he finds-
the lie.
yeah, that was
the
lie.
Right.
Right.
He
But
finds
that
the
was weird.
obituary.
Just a weird moment.
right.
Next rewatchable scene, Alex finally getting possessive after the second sleepover where she's hanging out in the bed and her breasts are out, but then there's a side angle where the sheets are over them.
Yeah.
It's some bad editing, but she
Yes.
starts getting mad. She kicks him
Mhm.
and
You get out.
Tearing
then-
the shirt.
then leads to, Dan, I'm sorry. And then it's like, oh, she tried to slit her
Mhm.
wrist. Wow, this is now turned.
Yes. Tough.
That is a really, really compelling and frightening 5 minutes.
Do you here's the thing.
It seems abrupt by her.
Yes, I was just gonna say
Somebody who's that confident,
that's
has that
when
much
you
going
know-
on, and then
yes.
just quickly, but who knows?
the wrist slitting. I mean, even to my 11-year-old self, I'm like, oh, I'm watching a movie.
I don't know. I think that's where, again, what does this movie look like in 2019, or what would it have looked like if it had been approached a little differently then? And again, I love the movie. It's incredibly entertaining. But that's a moment where you're like, I just need to better understand who this person is and what is actually going on. Is there a mental illness? It seems so.
Right. Well,
What is the mental
At that
illness?
point, there's a mental illness.
Well,
Right.
but one of the things that's fascinating about it is that, Glenn Close talks about how she took the script to multiple psychiatrists to make sure that the things that Alex was doing seemed true to form.
Again,
the writer,
my favorite actress, just putting
very diligent. The writer basically,
James Dearborn is
I have a quote from him about this. He doesn't view Alex, his creation, as mentally ill, which I just think is wrong.
Well, you know what he sees her as then. A woman.
Right. Here's what
Well,
Alex
this is 32 years ago, though.
Alex is emphatically not a monster. She is a sad, tragic, lonely woman
Oh.
holding down a tough job
Oh,
in an
the career
unforgiving
thing. We didn't even
city.
talk about the career thing. Oh my God.
Alex is not a study in madness. She is a study in loneliness and depression. Now, I would argue that those things are not mutually exclusive.
And I'm sorry, they're also mental illnesses. Look,
We don't have to litigate this one.
No. But the thing that 80s did do that I think is really part of the sort of the movie's sort of long-standing misogyny project. I think the thing, the 80s phase of it, which is women who work who also can't do anything else because it makes them crazy, like going to work. Look how sane Ann Archer is. Not all she does is make homes and raise a child, but that like she's rational and sane and loving. There's nothing crazy about Ann Archer. And the thing that springs her into action, the thing that springs her into action is the threat to her home. Right. When he puts her on the phone and he's like, this is the line. This is Beth Gallagher. Mm-hmm. If you come near my family again, I'll kill you. Do you understand?
That was a really good Ann Archer.
Beautiful.
Like that is the thing that woman who has no professional career, that's her livelihood.
Her family is the career
that Alex is fucking with.
Next rewatchable scene, Alex's real estate stop by. I like how this is
incredible
shot.
Stuff. Yeah.
It's really good with the camera on Michael Douglas kind of walking in handheld, which was a little inventive for the 80s. Not a lot of people were doing that handheld.
Like a lot of this movie is handheld.
That got a huge gas from my daughter.
The tension as I said in earlier, that moment is palpable.
Our daughter watched this with us, but I fast forwarded over the sex scenes.
Again, why watch
that one? Is like, oh, yeah. Oh, this went up a notch.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Is it all going to unravel right there? How will they all react? Does Beth sense it?
He goes back to her place.
Right. So I would group those scenes
I'm grouping those together.
Yeah.
Breaks in.
The iconic I'm not going to be
leading
ignored, Dan.
to the I'm not going to be ignored, Dan.
An amazing moment.
But why?
Because whether or not you are sympathetic and empathetic toward Alex, regardless, that's a moment where you have to take her seriously.
Right.
And it's important that as a viewer, you do that. If you want to root for her, you're like, fuck yes, you will not be ignored. Take command of your life, make him accountable. And if you just view her as more of a cartoon villain or this cartoon depiction of a deranged woman, which again is not how I personally perceive her, but I think is how plenty of people do, then you're like, oh shit, that's scary. That's a threat. That's something that he is going to have to reckon with. It's just such a perfectly effective line of dialogue.
There's no way out at that
delivered.
point.
Right. That whole speech is kind of a feminist speech, right?
Because I won't allow you to treat me like some slut. You can just bang a couple times and throw in the trash.
Yep.
Chef's kiss.
That is, I mean, she is aware of the power dynamics. And I think that, I don't know. It's just, the movie is so fascinating because it's not that it's confused. It just isn't fully developed, right? Mm-hmm. Like all of the properties are there for like the thing that Gone Girl takes way over the line, right? And
here we go.
No.
Here we go.
We're not talking about
with
Gone
the
Girl.
Gone Girl slander.
We don't like your Gone Girl takes.
Well, listen, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, you're banned from Gone Girl. Rewatchables.
I do like as an entertainment. I think it's great.
We don't want to hear your Gone Girl thoughts. No.
Anyway, I do think that this movie, like one more pass. Mm-hmm. Could have rescued this movie from it could have been the exact same movie, but with like a little more Alex goes to buy some milk time, or Alex like has a girlfriend time, or
doesn't, and then we better understand that hole in her life.
Exactly.
Totally.
Next rewatchable scene, the bunny scene.
Oh my God, Bill.
It's just
no.
It's one of the most
That's
memorable.
Literally the number one pick for never watch again scene.
It's one of the most memorable thriller scenes ever. It led to 30 plus years of jokes about boiling bunnies.
People are still making the joke.
Yeah, it's going to live on forever.
Yeah.
Unlike poor Whitey.
Anyone who acts crazy in any way, watch out for your bunny. It just became a trope.
But let's talk about the genius of the construction of that sequence. Right?
It's great.
There's a lot in this movie that is just like sort of like tweaking it's like a joke on what it is. There's a literal pot that boils. There is a kettle that goes off.
Yeah.
There is she takes the kid to the roller
coaster. Wait. We gotta hold on.
Anyway,
we're getting to that.
But just that sequence where they come home and Ellen and the dog go one way, Beth and Dan go into the house.
Well, also like going into your house that only you live in,
right?
And there's a pot boiling in the kitchen is just a terrifying.
Ann Archer's face when she first sees the pot.
It's like, what
is this?
Why?
Right.
Yeah.
The 3 people that live in this house were all just in the car.
Yeah.
Why is there a pot?
Yeah.
And then the bunny and poor Ellen. Ellen's still in therapy.
It's awful. Do you know that they used a real bunny?
Oh yeah,
Really?
they did.
Yeah, a dead one. Thank God. But they
Apparently
went to
it
a
smelled.
butcher and got an actual bunny
Mm.
Yeah.
to boil, and it stunk. And that's part of why
What Ann
Well,
Archer's
she's-
face looks like.
that.
She can smell it.
So my daughter,
honestly devastating.
who likes every movie, did not like this movie
because of the bunny.
and was so upset by the bunny thing. And as it was unfolding, and little Ellen's running to the cage, and
Awful.
Zoe started going, "Oh no! Oh no! No!
Yeah, it's tough.
No!"
It's very
It
tough.
was one of those for a minute and a half, and then was like, "Why did you make me watch this?" And just was devastated.
It's perfectly constructed though, because there's a juxtaposition between Beth's finding the pot and Ellen's finding the empty cage.
It's great.
Mhm.
It's
And
perfectly
the energy of that, and the ramping up of the suspense is
Right.
just
done.
perfect.
I got
And-
3 more rewatchable scenes. Dan tells Ann Archer.
Mhm.
I just really like Ann Archer in this movie,
Yeah.
and especially her performance in this, where she's like, "Remember that lady? The blonde."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And she's
Yeah.
just, you
Yeah.
just feel so bad. And she's still kind of with him
Mhm.
until she's pregnant. And then she's like, "All right, what the fuck?"
Right.
And loses it. But I just think she's really good in that scene.
Any threat to the family.
Yeah.
That's the pregnancy is a threat.
Ellen
to
gets
the,
taken is really well done and really
Mhm.
nerve wracking.
That's an upsetting,
Yep.
jarring.
That's
scene.
Another
when it's-
juxtaposition
Comes a little less
sequence.
tough to defend Glenn Close with that one.
I mean,
The child kidnapping, putting a 6-year-old on a roller coaster.
yeah, it's
Why
all
do
tough
you-
to defend.
why-
She broke into their home and murdered their pet.
Why
Wow,
She
that
poured
was
acid
easier
on
to-
his
Right,
car.
but I mean, I actually would love
She
to sort of
kidnapped the
think
child.
about what the point of that was.
Of the kidnap or
yeah.
the bunny?
Yeah.
Well,
I
it's
just
like
think she's
they're
out
two
of her mind.
They're two sides of the same coin. It's that it's all about what the family unit represents.
Right, like her
Because-
her like ability to sort of get in there and mess with it.
The one thing
Right.
that he won't give her.
It's a power thing. Yes.
Poor Ellen. Last the
Some
new
bad
ending.
beats
The
for
new
Ellen.
ending's really compelling and it's really good. I like
Oh, it's great.
What about the,
Michael does and
Right.
he comes in
what
and
about
the water
before we get there,
jumping.
the car ride with the tape? Play me.
Oh,
Oh, I don't.
You don't like that?
That's not rewatchable for me.
Oh, I
that makes
love
me
that
so
The
sequence.
uncomfortable.
tension of that
I
is
love
like,
that.
oh,
It's
man.
so suspenseful.
That's one of the best. This is a thriller.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll give
Also,
you that one.
I memorized a lot of this movie as a
Makes me
kid,
unhappy.
but that speech
Yeah.
is just. I mean,
Man.
so
it's
what's
great.
most rewatchable? You're going to see kitchen sink.
I want to say the sink sex. I do think it actually is the ending, which is pretty wild. That
Mhm.
the inarguably the most iconic moment of the movie, the ending, the knife, the tub, the bullet, is also the thing that people hold against the movie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
wild.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think there's something about that ending because also, again, like the Hitchcockness of this movie is all on the surface,
Yeah.
right? The devices, all the Hitchcock devices are right on the surface, and all of the sort of psychological subtext of a Hitchcock movie is there, except, the psycho sequence that he's taking from for this bathroom
Right.
murder it's great because, well, I mean, as movie making, it's great. Because she pops out of the water, so you've got a horror movie trope
Mhm.
in a sort of psychological thriller context,
Mhm.
and it's like she's not dead, but she is,
Right.
but she is now.
It's also definitely a scene that, whether or not you've seen the movie, you know exactly what happens in that scene, right?
Mhm.
And there are the psycho thing that it's an homage to is another one. Like there
Right.
are only so many moments from a movie where you know exactly who the people are, exactly what happens, and exactly how it plays out, even if you have no sense of the rest of the film.
I don't even know what the most rewatchable scene is.
I don't either, actually.
I
I don't
actually
have
think
one.
this whole movie's rewatchable.
It is. Yeah.
What's aged the best?
Hydration during sex.
Dan has the slightly
Oh,
flustered, just everything Michael Douglas does with this guy. I just like. I
Uh-huh.
think it's a
Yeah.
good character.
Yep.
I get him.
He won the Oscar that year for Wall Street, but I wonder.
Yeah.
I
What a
wonder.
year for him.
Ann Archer, I have her written down just as what's aged the best. I have Ann Archer's
Man.
80s hair,
Oh,
Yeah.
so
the
hair,
perms in this movie.
but her
Oh my
hair,
God.
her hair works. The most of the
Mhm.
mid 80s hair is really, really bad and kind of reckless. Even
Yeah.
I was watching Beverly Hills Cop the other day, and Lisa
Reckless.
Eilbacher,
Oh, yeah.
who I love,
Yeah.
Jenny Summers. Even her hair, it's like you just wish somebody had talked to
It's
somebody
too much.
about. Yeah,
It's too much.
but Anne Archer, I thought it looked.
There's
great.
a softness to it, and there's a scene where
She's perfect.
during the real estate drop by,
Yes.
where Alex is leaving the house, and their hair are like both hair
It's hair on
is
hair.
is in the same scene, and you're just like, I don't know who the stylist was for this movie, but keeping Alex all in white, everything Alex does and wears is white, and
Except the initial black dress.
except the
from
inciting
meet
black
cute.
dress.
Yeah.
Well, so they said, didn't they say in the casting, she just showed up and her hair's normally like that.
This
It
is
wasn't
a-
intentional. Glenn Close.
Well,
she has that crazy. My daughter has hair like that too, where if she doesn't straighten it out, it just goes.
But
nuts.
that was what was intentional about it. She has talked about this, letting it go wild because she felt that it would fit the character and be an expression
move.
of that sexuality and
Yes.
that rage. It's great. It's great.
Their house in Bedford is spectacular.
The real estate in general, period.
That is like if
Her
you're gonna
apartment's
live in the
great.
country and like that part of Connecticut or that part of New York, like that's like the house you have in your head,
Mhm.
the big front yard
Beautiful.
and just white picket fence, all that stuff. I love the early '80s Volvo. I love that car.
Yeah.
Nice,
stuff.
safe car. Good
Yeah.
one if you're
Oh.
like 17, your
Yeah.
first car. It's
My
like
first
10
car
years
was
old.
my
Yeah.
dad's
You
hand-me-down
could crash
Volvo.
that thing, it just bounces off a wall. It's fine.
260,000 miles on it, I
Yeah,
think.
those cars were great.
When Beth gets into that car accident, is she driving a Volvo?
She's in a
too?
Honda Accord.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another great car.
the boiling bunny joke has aged the best because we've been getting 30 years out of that. The meat district, which was really like that.
The meatpacking district.
The
yeah.
meatpacking
Yeah,
district,
that's where Alex
where
lives.
it really was. There was just meat, and it was a weird place to live, and it became in the late '80s became like this real estate / bar inefficiency place that people started to go to. And I remember going there with fake ID when I'm 18, and we're like, "What is this place?"
And
There's,
also
like,
the
meat?
movies figured out that like you as a viewer would feel this way. Because
Yeah.
so many movies wind
Disorienting.
up there,
Totally.
with the sweaty streets and
I have the dad's "you're such a fucking asshole" face to Dan in the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Great.
just the best. And then
Well,
just seeing Playland in a movie made me happy. I had a lot of good times at Playland.
I think the most rewatchable scene, if I had to pick one though, it'd be her in the elevator, I think is great. Because it mirrors the sequence where she's in the parking lot and walks away, which is something just out of the Matrix.
Yeah.
And then, but I think that the initial conversation they have about what, like, where like
when they end up having
where
dinner.
she basically lays it all out for him.
That is a great scene.
And he has to react to it, and she has to be very, for lack of a better term, sane. She
What
has
else do you
to-
have for what's aged the best? Anything else?
Just in general, the casting. I think especially
Yeah.
given the fact that there were so
Tell me who else was
many-
up
We're
on the
getting it,
card.
we're
There,
getting
it's
it.
again
Okay.
right.
We're
There
getting
were so many, like really an astonishing number of people
let's
in
just do it.
contention for these roles. The fact that they landed on Michael Douglas and Glenn Close and Anne Archer is just the chemistry there is perfect. It's hard to imagine the movie with anyone else.
So I'll just do casting what ifs now. They did not want to cast Glenn Close. The producers Sherry Lansing and Stanley Jaffe
Oh, Sherry.
both had serious doubts that she could be sexual enough.
Right.
So she let the hair go wild.
Huh.
Clicked with Michael Douglas,
I would-
which I don't think it was that hard to click with Michael Douglas. He seems like a walking erection for about 15 years there. So Sharon Stone
What?
auditioned for the role of Alex,
But-
but got passed over.
Thank God, because if they're in this movie
I did
together,
not
we don't
know
get Basic
that.
Instinct.
It's a good what if.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of movie.
She
I
couldn't have-
actually think the character needs to be older. Sharon
Yeah.
Stone was in her 20s still at that point, I think.
Yeah, it has to be.
Um,
It doesn't work. It doesn't work with. It has to work with a person who's Michael. Like, think about this. This thing doesn't happen now. Like this, the version of this movie now is like Harrison Ford and Emma Stone, right? Like these two people are the same age,
Yeah.
and that are very close in age. It really, really matters that they're peers.
Mhm.
Who else?
Who knows if this is true, but apparently Sally Field, Kirstie Alley, and Emma Thompson were all considered.
Whoa,
Emma Thompson's a good
Sally
one.
Yeah.
Field.
Sally
Elizabeth
Field.
Shue?
I didn't believe that one.
There's
I looked
another
that
one?
up. She was like 22 when that came out.
Sally Field.
I don't. This is why it's half-assed internet research.
Sally Field could have done it, but she couldn't have done it with Michael Douglas.
I don't think she could have flipped the switch and been crazy like
Carrie
that.
Fisher?
She was Sybil. I mean, with like
Carrie
we're-
Fisher would have been
We're
interesting.
doing
Fisher?
a number on mental illness right now, but Sally Field could definitely have found one of those Sybil personalities to do Alex Forrest.
Do you know my Sally Field take?
No. What is it?
Sally Field and Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh,
Top
this is
five-
mine.
Top
This is
5
mine.
hottest ever in a
Oh
movie.
my God, ever.
Ever.
Burt Re- but
she walked in right now, I'd be like, I'll see you guys later.
But it was a Burt Reynolds
with
thing because
everybody.
nobody ever brought that out of her ever
Oh my
again.
God, she was great.
Burt Reynolds.
This one's gonna floor you. Turn down the Dan Gallagher role, Christopher Reeve.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
I don't see it.
I don't see it either.
No.
Never
No.
really felt like a huge sexual thing with
Because
Christopher Reeve.
here is the thing, like it's not a moral movie. It's not a movie about the struggle about whether to have the affair. Christopher Reeve would have needed a
Right.
scene where he's like really thinking about whether to have the affair. It's not like that. It's all spontaneity and it's all like
Physicality.
like split second rationalization. And Michael Douglas can do that with just one reaction shot. You don't need a scene. He can do it at the table.
Considered for the role of Beth Gallagher, but did not get it. Andy McDowell.
Yep.
Oh.
Did you see
Makes sense.
the rumor that?
By the way, she ended up being Ann
Yeah.
Archer's market correction.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
right.
Your
That's
favorite
true.
thing. She took all every
Ann Archer
Ann Archer
part.
should have been in Sex Lies and Videotape instead of Andy McDowell.
Oh yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know what what
Groundhog
happened.
Day could have had Ann Archer.
Oh my God.
That would've
Yeah.
been- that would've
Any
been
shortcuts.
great.
Oh my God. That might be the Ann Archerist, not Ann Archer part of all time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Huh.
Market correction.
Market totally.
Another
market
great
correct.
Wesley
That's
idea.
a great.
What about Brian
Market
De Palma
correction.
signing on and then not wanting to do it unless they got rid of Michael Douglas?
Yeah. So they chose
incredible-
Douglas over Brian De Palma. And John
Whoa.
Carpenter was the next choice,
Yeah, that's amazing.
but thought it was too close to play Misty for me
Ah.
and didn't like the ending, which they ended up reshooting anyway.
Oh, well, can I just say, like, while we're talking about didn't like the ending, the thing about Adrian Lyne doing this and De Palma not doing it is think about the reason these movies, all of the movies that came after this movie don't work, the reason they don't work is because think about the number of violations that it has to have that it like has Alex Forrest do. And all the other From Hell movies, there's like 2 things that are wrong that like she does that like mess with the audience.
I still think the Volvo's worse than the bunny.
Oh,
But
come
fucking
on.
bunny. You can get a bunny anywhere.
But let's just
It's
start.
a living creature.
Yeah.
It's a part of their family.
Come on.
She slits
Lots
her
of bunnies.
wrist. She kicks him out after basically saying that she's disappointed that they can't hang out anymore and he has to go back home to his family.
Yeah.
She drops in and makes the real estate visit. The Volvo and the acid. She leaves him the Play Me tape.
Also, just throughout
bunny.
all of this, constantly
Calling,
showing up at his office,
calling,
calling
yep.
him, trying to get his number
The
after
bunny.
he changed it.
Follows him home to the house.
Mhm.
Kidnaps the kid. Boils the rabbit and then shows up at the end. You have like 9 to 12 incidents by which you can root against this woman if you are so inclined.
Of course.
And no other movie in the history of the Blank from Hell movie has given you that much grist for just either exasperation, suspense, or just
First of all, I really don't appreciate your slander of the From Hell genre, since it gave us Sleeping with the Enemy, Single White Female, and Hand That Rocks the Cradle, 3 of the greats.
but think about the
Sleeping with the Enemy, the first 25 minutes, I will stand by for the rest of my life. Laura! Laura!
Yeah.
That is an amazing movie.
Oh, Patrick Bergen. But I do think that I just feel like the reason this one works in the way that it does is that, as you pointed out,
They
and I
stacked
hadn't
the
really
deck.
thought about, they stacked the deck, and there really are only 3 locations for this movie, pretty
Yes.
much.
All right, what's age the worst? You'll be happy for this one, Mallory. Dan Gallagher, Hall of Fame terrible pet owner. Here are some of his sins. Left the dog alone for 18 hours.
I mean, it's
So
it's
if you do the
unforgivable.
math,
I don't have a dog.
He
Is
has-
that bad?
jail him.
okay.
he's at work. He's at work.
Hmm.
Late meeting on a Saturday, right?
Mhm.
Leaving in the rain, goes to get a drink with Glenn Close, leads to him sleeping over and being there. I'm going to say 18 hours that dog was alone, minimum.
He
Even
lives
if he
so
left his
far
house,
away
At
from where her
least.
house is.
even if he left his
terrible.
house just for the Saturday, because it was a Friday meeting or a Saturday meeting.
Saturday
It was a weekend?
meeting.
It was a
Saturday
weekend.
meeting.
It was a
Yeah,
Saturday
it
So
had
let's
to
say
go
he
in.
leaves his house at 3. He's still not home before like, I don't know, 10 o'clock.
Oh,
That
yeah.
dog's alone for 18 hours.
Awful. It's awful.
Took his dog on an overnight date with a mistress.
Terrible.
Is that really?
Fed
That's
his-
bad.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Dogs know. Dogs have parents.
There's
They
that
have
great
loyalty.
moment when
Dogs are loyal.
Quincy's looking out the window at the birds and he's like, help. You can just tell he's trying to communicate with the outside world.
Fascinating.
He knows.
That's a great observation.
My dog
That's
Willie.
a great observation.
The best dog we've ever had, Willie. He sniffs new people in the house. Like he's just curious. And we were joking, like if I had done this on a date and brought
Oh.
Willie would have done like a lot of sniffing of Glenn Close. It would have ruined the mood. Dan Gallagher fed the dog spaghetti and meatballs for dinner.
Listen.
That is like, hey, can you have diarrhea for 4 days in our house?
This was an outrage because Adam and I paused the movie and talked about this.
Spaghetti and meatballs. Who does that?
I spend so much more time thinking about what my cat eats than what I eat.
Can I tell
his
you-
diet is so important.
You know what struck me about that moment?
But it was a cover-up.
Right,
because
right.
Beth left Dan the spaghetti
yes.
in the fridge, so he had to get rid of the evidence that
Yeah,
he didn't eat it,
right.
that he wasn't there.
But not only that, but think about, like, I don't know what Anne's deal is, but I'm going to guess she just opened a jar. But no offense to her, because it's 1987. It was just about convenience.
Little
still.
ragu.
So
I feel like she's probably a great cook. I don't know. She's perfect.
She's the perfect
she is
woman.
perfect. She maybe did make the
Perfect
tomato
woman.
sauce
I
from
think she
scratch.
made it from scratch.
But like, what an FU to whatever labor she put into making that meal. He just dumps it in that bowl. Or does he put the bowl on the floor?
And then the last
he puts
scene.
it on the floor
Yeah,
so
he
that the
puts it on
dog
the
can eat
floor.
it.
The
That
brand
is
new-
not healthy for a dog.
No,
to
that's
eat.
diarrhea for 4 days. Then the last scene was putting the bunny right next to the car that's
that-
burning acid smoke.
yeah,
Hey, here,
I
have
think
some acid
the
smoke.
So
world
upsetting.
felt that. Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that brings me peace when I think about the cruel end of Dear Sweet Whitey's life is that maybe going out quickly like Whitey did, and we should note, I don't want to get too graphic, but you can see when the lid opens that there's blood, so we
Right.
can presume that Whitey was killed
Knife to death.
before,
Yeah.
wasn't boiled slowly alive. What kind of diseases is Whitey getting from being exposed to that acid fog? If
Yeah, he
Whitey
would have
had
died
lived?
anyway.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Morwood's age the worst. Glenn Close just lighting up the cigarette in the office meeting.
Oh,
with the
yeah,
book.
that
That
was
was
smoking.
weird. That was like,
Yeah.
whoa.
At some point, she stopped smoking, though. Did you notice that? Right
Yeah.
around the time of the Oreos, the wine, the Doritos, and the Haagen-Dazs, she's not a smoker anymore.
Do you think it's
well-
because she's pregnant?
Yes, I do.
Oh, she knew right away.
Yeah, I think it's because she's pregnant.
Interesting.
So,
I didn't notice that she stopped.
I had another
She
what's age the
stops.
worst. Glenn Close is smoking. It just couldn't. I mean, Tom Cruise is the worst movie smoker of all time, but Glenn Close.
Yeah.
way up
She
there.
had other things to focus on, like
Um,
turning on the sink.
This one aged the worst just because she says at one point, I'm 36 years old. This might be my last chance to have a child. Well, now in 2019, you could be 48 years old
I
and have
gotta
a
tell you,
child.
I heard that, and I could feel, like, physically inside my biological clock ticking
Yeah.
as I heard that. I could feel
Well,
it.
I mean,
That was a bad
in
moment that I did not
1987,
enjoy.
like you, like in like, the
Not
way
a
we
fan of
thought
that.
the way we thought about pregnancy in 1987, like
38,
she
it's
had
over.
she had 10 seconds. She had 10 seconds to have this child.
Not into that.
Elementary school pickup security in the
Oh
1980s.
my God. What was that?
Hey, I'm here to pick up Ellen. Oh, she's gone.
No.
Some crazy lady with a perm picked her up.
Alicia, where's Ellen? She's gone.
Also, everybody in the school knows that Ellen is gone. Everybody. Other parents,
Yeah, the crazy
teachers,
lady took her.
Administrators, students. Everybody knows that Ellen's
This is a
gone.
real
and
indictment
yet
of whiteness,
no
by the way.
one
Yeah.
This is
knows.
a straight up indictment
Bedford
of whiteness.
school system.
Like, just
Yeah.
some white lady came
it'll
to get
be
her. It's
fine.
fine. It's all right.
Unbelievable.
That was brutal.
The old school phones and slamming
Yes.
phones
Oh,
down
yeah.
and hanging up and having an operator just
yeah.
feels like it was in the 18th century.
Landlines, and I would just say the absence of technology, of modern technology in general, has really aged the worst. You put a doorbell cam up, you put a webcam up once, and you've got her. When Dan goes to the police officer and he's like, well, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for a friend, my client. And the officer says to him, well, you've got to basically catch her. Today, you do that in 4 seconds. You have the bunny
Right.
on camera.
Yeah.
Or somebody is sliding into your DMs instead of calling your landline where your wife
if you had
is
cell phone
answering.
and email, her craziness would have been, pretty.
You don't need that
pretty easy to
scrapbook
track.
sequence anymore, right? Like she's just got a Facebook account where it's all there.
And then the last thing I had for What Stage the Worst, this movie did completely rip off Play Misty for me, which is a really good movie. It's probably one of the first rewatchable movies because it's like 1971. I watched it 2 years ago. I was like, this is good. I mean, it's super dated in a lot of ways, but it's Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood's a DJ.
Right.
He has some caller who likes him, who starts following him. He hooks up with her.
Play Misty for me.
And then she just starts ruining his life. And it's good because it's Clint Eastwood.
Right.
It's one of the only times he's kind of disarmed by usually he could just be like, oh, I'll pull my gun out, I'll shoot you.
Right.
But that's why I like it, because it's this weird side of Clint Eastwood. Plus he directed it. It's got great Monterey shots and Bay Area. And
it's good. The problem,
but it's 50 years old though.
It's old, and it felt old like probably almost immediately. And it doesn't have any of this, it doesn't have any of the like sort of modern pleasure of like that. Fatal Attraction is a movie about what it's like to be these people in 1987.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is very much of a piece with 1980s movie culture in terms of how single women are represented and how married men are represented in a city.
I'm curious, have either of you seen the original short film?
No.
Diversion?
Sorry, there's more?
Well, this is an adaptation of the screenwriter's original version, which I believe was a...
Oh, it's because the credit is based on an original screenplay by James Dearden.
Yes, so it was a British, like, made-for-TV movie? I think I might not have that right, but it was like a 50-minute version of this story. So I'm curious how... And it was years before, earlier in the decade, how much of the plot is the same and how much was amended for this movie.
What else do you have for What Stage the Worst? Anything?
Only stuff that we've talked about already. Just Dan's behavior and him not getting more, being held more accountable and being more culpable, and then just the representation of what actually is going on in Alex's life.
We have a double winner for the Best That Guy, aka Joey Pants Award, and the Saul Rubinek They Knew Overacting Award. Both goes to Stuart Penkin.
Oh, Stuart
Michael
Penkin.
Douglas's heavy friend.
Yeah.
Who's just
incredible
dialed up for
dinner
90
sequence.
minutes.
The dinner
the
sequence.
Bowling, everything's just big and loud.
Stuart
and just,
Penkin.
It's so funny, and they're at dinner, and it's just like a laugh riot. And
I love the way he
great.
brings the overacting ethos into the whisper scene in the law library.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's a reason he wasn't in a lot of movies. The Dion Waiters Award winner is going to surprise you.
Okay.
Quincy, the White Lab. I thought it was an amazing performance by him.
That's a great one.
You're going to pass over Ellen.
I think it's Ellen.
You're going to pass
I do think it's
Ellen's in a lot of the movie, though.
So is Quincy.
So is Quincy, actually. He might have more screen time than Ellen.
Okay. I'll consider Ellen. I think both, maybe they can share it.
They're asking a lot of Ellen.
Quincy's given everything I want from a white lab. They're just, I've never had one. They're just these kind of dumb, loyal dogs that just like.
Quincy's wonderful.
Hey, we're going to the park? I don't care who I'm with. Hey, spaghetti and meatballs. Cool. Like, they don't judge.
No. Oh, he was judging. He knew.
You think he knew?
Quincy. Oh, yeah. Did you ever stop to study the decorations in Ellen's room?
Oh no, I've never done that. What's
disturbing?
In there?
It's just a lot of like there's this very there's exaggerated
in the new house. There's this
an
like
illustrated like you can't tell if it's a doll or like a self portrait of her, but it's hovering over her.
It's like a
bed.
long rectangular.
It's very upsetting.
Yeah, I noticed that, but didn't put a lot of thought into it.
Concerning.
Half-ass internet research. We've done almost everything.
A rich text. We've hit a lot of it.
Glenn Close said in 2008, men still come up to me and say, "You scared the shit out of me." Sometimes they say, "You saved my marriage." Yeah. That's interesting at cocktail parties. This film was released in 1987, which coincidentally, according to Chinese Zodiac, is the year of the rabbit.
That's right.
Oh, shit.
Initial title was Diversion.
Oh,
for the scene when Dan pushes Alex into the bathtub, Close had to be dunked underwater more than 50 times.
And resulting in ear infections?
No.
And eye infections?
No.
Yes.
50 times? Yes. What is he, David Fincher?
She was injured doing this.
I would have gone with maybe 4 times.
God, there's just, because you only get that one shot where like.
Terrible.
Oh my God.
Wait, it gets worse.
When he's dunking her?
It does get worse.
During the reshoot, she suffered a concussion when her head smashed against the mirror.
And what happened?
She was rushed to the hospital, discovered she was actually pregnant with her daughter.
Yes.
Oh, Annie was
this
conceived during Fatal
it's
Attraction.
Bad.
This is upsetting.
This is not great.
That's crazy.
Still, the winner of who was mistreated the most in this movie was the dead bunny.
Awful.
No, not that worse than Glenn Close. She got an ear infection. She had to be taken to the
Ear
hospital.
infection.
That's very
At least the
upsetting.
rabbit is dead.
And then Michael Douglas was
Right.
filming Wall Street at the same time, which
Yeah.
I'm always stunned when actors can do 2 movies and
This is wild. So did you read that he like alternated days of the week for which set he was on? Is that true?
what an actor.
Can that
Yeah.
be true? Is that possible?
That brings us to Apex Mountain.
Mm.
This was Michael Douglas's Apex Mountain. This movie comes out same year as Wall Street, and he wins the Oscar for Wall Street, and he's never been better and had more power or anything.
No.
This is the peak
He's
of
got-
an awesome career. Glenn Close, I'll let you answer that one, Wesley, as the
What?
#1 Glenn Close fan. Apex Mountain for her here?
Apex Mountain.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of like her commercial, it's the biggest movie she's ever been in. It's not the best performance she's given. There's any number of candidates for that. I would say the next year, the year she lost the Oscar to Jodie Foster for The Accused, that I think like film performance wise is her great movie performance in Dangerous Liaisons.
Mhm.
But I
was-
mean, she
you know
sorry.
my feeling about that one.
No, I don't.
It's an Oscar travesty.
You mean that it didn't win anything?
Did
it lost to Rain
Her
Man?
not winning for Dangerous Liaisons
yes,
is
yes.
outrageous.
Her not winning.
She
With all due respect to Jodie Foster in The Accused.
She was Jodie Foster really good in The Accused, but
Glenn Close.
that was one of those you left the movie theater and you were like, Close and Malkovich, oh my God,
Yeah.
what just happened?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Glenn Close.
I
in
remember
Dangerous
where I
Liaisons
saw
is
that
great.
movie. We left, we were like, what just happened? That was
Yeah.
amazing.
Also, the best last, like in terms of a performance closing a movie,
Mhm.
that is one of the greatest performances
So good.
to end a movie I can think of.
Apex Mountain, Ann Archer, not just for her career, but
Gotta be.
for my love, other than my daughter and my wife.
Just
Maybe
your-
my
your
third
ability
favorite
to love
female
a
ever.
person.
Maybe
Yeah.
Mallory. Maybe your third.
Thank you.
Top 5. Just what a performance. by
She's
her.
incredible.
You know
Oscar
why
nom.
she was so easy to market? She lost to Olympia Dukakis, by the way, which I mean, to be fair, come
no,
on.
that's-
That's your winner. I love you, Ann Archer. But Olympia Dukakis and Moonstruck is
This is Beth Gallagher.
oh my God. Yes.
If
It's
you ever
just-
come near my family again, I'll kill you.
She's
do
the
you
best.
understand? Yeah, I mean
Do you understand? It's like this weird English accent.
I love
Uh,
the way that she like puts on her like evening moisturizer
It's
in
just-
the mirror. That's actually the
it's
kind of
just
the
a
sexiest moment of
romance
the movie.
of-
Good,
Oh,
great
Isaac's
underwear.
nodding.
yes.
Great underwear.
But the other thing about like
She's-
think if
the
they had
best.
switched
She could
parts.
bowl.
Think if they had switched parts. If
C-
Glenn
couldn't-
Close
the movie doesn't work because
I
you're
can't.
like run away with her.
Yeah.
She is
Um,
so captivating.
No, I'm with you.
Apex Mountain, Bedford, New York. I say yes. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Beautiful
Psychotic
Bedford movie.
female villains.
It's the movies. There's so many to choose from.
It's definitely it has its coaching tree now. You know, a lot of other movies are in this mold and in this template. And I, to your point earlier, maybe that's not a good thing, but it definitely continued to inspire a generation.
I think
of
it's only not good because the movies that deal with this as a character, as a personality trait, don't have the sophistication to really do it, and the actors aren't good enough.
Don't besmirch Chain That Rocks a Cradle or Single Way
With
Female.
all due respect to the Jennifer Jason Leigh, I would say understood
That movie was good.
She was on a different planet,
also in the running for Alex,
right?
according to one of the many
No.
rumors.
Yeah, it was
according to one of the
half-assed
many
research.
rumors.
The more names that keep coming, there clearly was only one choice.
I mean, there are 60 names. It's one
like
of
if you
those.
were like, Bette Midler was up for, I don't know, like,
she might have been.
right, but Glenn Close is the only person. She had no competition as far as I can see.
We got to move. Picking nits.
What about Apex Mountain for the director? What do you think?
He had so many hits, though. I mean, yeah, it's the best movie it's the
Yeah,
best
it probably
movie
is.
as a movie.
He was nominated for
Adrian
Best
Lyne
Director.
had ever made, yes.
And
I would say yes.
This was also just it was on the heels of 9.5 Weeks. So it's like the closest concentration of his best films.
What about really cool elevators where you have to like pull
Yeah.
them down? Is it this or is it Unfaithful?
It's this.
Okay.
It's this because she had complete command over that elevator. I can't get enough of that shot. That like
great.
just meme that when you've got something, when you've got this,
Yeah.
just have Glenn Close
thinking
close your
about this
elevator
movie
gate.
and the meme generation is like pretty exciting.
Yeah,
There would be some incredible
some great
memes.
ones. Yep.
Picking nits.
Oh boy, there are a lot.
Let's go.
At what point should Dan have realized that Alex might be a lunatic? Here are the 5 nominees. During their first drink, at the dog park when she lied about when she was like, "Oh, my dad died that way." I'm just kidding. The hissy fit when she tried to leave. The unfortunate suicide attempt, or the M. Butterfly invite at the office. At what point on that checklist is he like, "Oh God"? Because I'm going with the dog park.
Well, he claims
That
Madame
was
Butterfly.
so weird. I would have been like, "I'm out." That's
but
weird.
Remember the story that he tells about Madame Butterfly? The Madame Butterfly story, like the thing that sort of bonds them to each other in some ways is that this opera means something to both of them. That's he mentions a parent in this movie, and his father took him to see Madame Butterfly.
Again, this is set up for the ending that we don't get because in the moment where we see her cutting her throat, the opera is playing against that moment. So I think it's a hard part of the movie to talk about, but it's the risks.
Yeah, okay.
It has to be.
Well, that leads me to the next one.
Because
it's the dress at the party. I'm sorry. It's the dress at the party. Because it's too much. Now, I know it's the 80s and remember how we were really into Japanese culture in 1980s? Like sushi was fascinating. Sumo was fascinating. We loved, like Sony was fascinating.
The
Japanese
designs.
culture, we were so into it. Like the Japaneseness of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I think there was something about Glenn Close at that Japanese exercise book release party. It just was too much. I think there's like an excess to that character that might be attractive, but it's definitely like I'm at least thinking about like
exit plan.
Make a red flag note.
That's
here.
fair. I just have some questions about the risks and like you don't have to go to the hospital for that. That part was confusing.
I think you would.
Just
Just
from a
go to the
nitpick
hospital.
You'd probably go to the emergency room. I'm guessing
you would, but I think that if to the degree that we know they talked about it, I think he couldn't go, right? Like I think there was just like a risk involved or something.
He says to her, "You'll go to the doctor,"
right?
But
that's the next day.
Glenn Close's smoking we covered. This always gets me with thrillers. People who keep a clipping book of their worst moments.
Yeah, that's a movie device.
Hey, my dad died.
Yeah.
Let's put that in there. And here's a shot of me when I was in jail.
Right.
It's like, who keeps a scrapbook of anything that's not positive?
Well, serial killers and psychotics, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in the movies, they're the only people keeping scrapbooks.
By the way, anyone who keeps a scrapbook like that, I would at least do a double take.
He's well past the double take.
Right, but he's
at
this
he's
point,
in her
he's
apartment
looking
trying
for that
to find
scrapbook.
proof that
Right.
What happened to Alex's job? She's a book
That's a
editor,
great
and
question.
it just kind of
This is a great question.
stops working basically and hangs out.
That's a great unanswerable question.
It seemed like she had a pretty good
I
job.
assume a lot of this was happening on the weekend.
Okay.
That's my guess.
The whites in her eyes in the bath,
Terrible.
Oh yeah,
really
not
bad.
good.
Terrible.
Really bad. What else did you
Terrible.
have?
I can't get over this, even though I understand it. Beth wants to stay in her home. Her life has been disrupted. She wants to end the disruption there. Why, however, doesn't she say, no, you stay. I'm going to leave the murdered bunny house. I'm going to go. You have to stay in the house that was broken into by a person who is trying to harm us.
No.
I'm going to go to the next hotel.
I think no.
Yeah.
I mean, no. Because, and I think this is one of the really great, I mean, to the degree that there's any subtext in this movie, we've talked about this a little bit, but it really is about like the woman being not, the breadwinner is secondary. The prime role in a family in this world is the homemaker. And I think that,
and
like,
she was the one who wanted the home, and it's hers.
You can't,
and she's not letting him take her away from it, but just again, this is picking nits. This is the category. Practically speaking, if you know that someone is trying to come for you, you don't stay in the place that person just infiltrated.
But that's the same sequence as the phone call where she's like, "Bitch, come for me,
and
I got something for you."
And she thinks that's actually going to work.
She believes it.
It's a heat check for
Beth Gallagher is a warrior. Come on.
I picked that nit. Some others. Obviously, it's a deliberate plot choice to set up the original ending where his fingerprints are on the knife. I get why he has to touch the knife in the scene in the kitchen where they're fighting.
It is noticeable
Putting
that he puts
it down on the counter is ludicrous.
Yeah.
She just tried to stab you with it. And then like let's see a little hustle when you're leaving the apartment after that. You're going to put the knife down. That doesn't make sense. Fine. Let's see a little hustle to get out the door. I think he's in
shock. I think he's in shock. I really do. I think that like the look on his face, the shot before that is him looking down at her.
I just don't think he's super aware, which brings us to our next nit that I'd like to pick. What's the commute from New York City to Bedford?
It's
whatever the answer is in minutes. She is driving behind him.
It's 50 minutes.
Minimum, right? I
No.
mean, we're
Plus,
going
you
to
get off
Westchester
the-
County.
You
we're
get
going
off
through
the
tolls.
exit and you're doing back roads for another 20.
She is behind him on that road
the whole time.
the entire time.
No, it's true. But
And he doesn't notice.
He's so into, like, he's listening to the tape.
The tape has his attention. Look in your rearview mirror, my guy. Come on.
I have one.
Couple more.
Oh, you've got more.
I do have a couple more. I'm
Maybe
almost
yours.
done.
Maybe yours will be mine. I only have one.
Beautiful new
that
home.
hasn't been
It's an
mentioned.
old home, sure, but a beautiful home. Are these floors made of Swiss cheese? How is the leak
The water. That's so fast.
happening that
It's
fast?
too fast.
It's too
fast.
It would take.
It's too
I
fast.
can't believe I forgot to mention that because
It's too fast.
It would
I don't
take-
even own a house.
I think it would take like 9 hours.
It's
Yeah, no.
way too fast.
would
That whole scene, it's this delicate dance. The choreography all hinges on the precise timing of the water.
He
Quincy
doesn't even
drinking the
need
water.
it. He doesn't even. That scene
By
does
the way,
not need the
Great
water.
job by Quincy the White Lab, not protecting his mother, but just licking the bathtub
Well,
water off the floor
our
because
poor
White Labs
guy-
are morons.
Yeah.
No, our poor guy is like eating leftover spaghetti. He
Yeah.
needs a fresh drink. Speaking of that scene, how does Ellen not wake up?
Hmm.
Like, I'm
That's a
glad
great
the
question.
child is not in the scene ultimately, but she has just been put to bed mere feet away.
So, as somebody who has had 2 6-year-olds in my day, once they're asleep, it's over.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
No, it's true.
You can literally drive a truck through the front door and they're not waking up.
Screaming,
Nah, they're not waking
the
up.
crashing of
gunshot?
glass, a knife on the floor, the sound of, you know how loud it is to drown someone? And then a gunshot?
I think 7 and under, they're not waking up.
She's probably cowering in her bed.
That's why we used to have our eyes wide shut parties after our kids were asleep from like 11 on. We'd be like, it's fine, they're asleep.
There's some very weird stuff with time in this movie, not the passage of time, but like specifically it says the clock, I believe in the kitchen says 3:25 in the afternoon when Alex is making her spaghetti dinner, things like that. Do Beth and Dan well off, right? They have a beautiful apartment. They're moving into this mansion in Bedford.
Beth is
They don't
coming
have a
from
real
some
estate.
real
They don't
money.
have a real estate broker. Beth is just greeting prospective buyers alone in her home. Where's the broker?
That's a good
That's
one.
a good one.
Come on.
That's a really good one.
Ridiculous.
No. But Alex knows that they're gonna move, right? She knows something is up.
Sure. And the place is for sale. But
Right.
and I guess this is a product of the era where you'd be more likely to just
Right.
welcome someone into your home. Still, where's the broker? I don't want to necessarily cite the specific line, but when Dan is listening to the tape in the car and then listening to it again in his man cave attic, the words are different. The specific
Yeah, you're
line
right.
is not
I
there
just
the
assumed
second
she was
time.
repeating herself.
And
That's what I assumed. I noticed
Yeah.
that, but I just
That's
assumed
strange. I always find it very strange when they go back to her apartment after the dinner, after the dancing, rather, that he's like, do you live here? They've already been there. Is that just an editing mistake? Or is that like him trying to be cute and sexy?
Oh yeah, I think he was being cute and sexy.
Didn't work.
Editing mistake. What'd you have?
Well, it's kind of a major thing, but in the reshoot, I don't like the knife. I don't like the knifing of the dress to draw the blood. I don't believe like
It's
we're
to
in
show
some,
how crazy she is.
we're in
She's
some
mutilating herself.
I just don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Glenn Close kept that knife.
Yeah.
She did.
Yeah, she's got it in her room still.
Whoa.
It's true.
I love you, Glenn Close.
We're
Because some people run away from this part, right?
We're-
Some people are just like,
We're almost at the 2-hour mark, so I got to speed through.
Okay.
We're gonna
Can
skip
the
over.
podcast be longer than the movie?
We're gonna skip over best quote, except for "I feel you, I taste you,
Oh, yeah.
I
That
think
is
you, I
tough.
touch you."
Yeah.
Can you understand? Can you? I would
That
just
is
have gotten in a
tough.
car accident. I'm like, ah, ah! That's
Oh,
it.
man.
It's so disturbing.
It's very
I
upsetting.
taste you.
I taste you is so
Oh, my
upsetting.
God.
Can I just say though, to an 11-year-old
Oh my
boy,
God.
like that kind of like psychosis and obsession is so appealing. Like
Yeah.
I think seeing it at 11 kind of really changed my life. Like in terms of
man.
how I related to
Could this
people
be
after that.
remade as a 10-episode Netflix show?
No.
I vote yes.
Absolutely.
I think the 2019 version of this movie with modern technology and
Yeah.
all the different ways we think about this stuff could be a really interesting movie.
Also, it would give us more time
make
for them
people
to
mad.
build up the relationship and the characters in the first place. And then you just understand all of their actions more. I think it would have to be a short, maybe like 6 episodes. I don't know about 10.
10 couldn't happen.
You could argue The Affair was basically
God,
that
don't
version
you
of this.
dare.
Wow, we both like
Can't
The
wait
Affair.
for season
You guys are nuts.
You know, they had Fox.
I love Dominic
Fox
West.
greenlit a television version of this in 2015, and then it never happened. Also, there was a play in London, 2014.
Probably unanswerable questions. At what point, I was just putting myself in the Dan Gallagher role. At what point would my wife never have been able to forgive me? I think it was the spaghetti and meatballs for the dog. Would have been the adultery aside, just that just mistreating a dinner like that would have been unforgivable.
I think about my sister in that part. Like that would have been the thing she focused on for a little bit.
Fatal Attraction 2.
Mm-hmm.
Grown up Ellen. Maybe disturbed and demented from her traumatic childhood.
Ellen's going to be
having
carrying
some
that
commitment
for a while.
issues. And then now it's
Bill,
Ellen Gallagher.
this is good.
Yeah.
This is good.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
Did this movie launch the Skinamax era? Because this was the plot of a 150 Skinamax movies.
There's a real answer to this, which is that, these movies, the erotic thriller came out of
this movie.
Well, no, but it was an industrial problem where please come see the movies. Don't go watch porn. Let's put pornishness with a plot.
Right.
Let's marry that. Joe Esterhaus is the king of, this genre, what we call now the erotic thriller. What we called then the erotic thriller. And I think the Skinamaxness, like you just got lower quality versions of this thing.
Nannies.
Right, yes. Right, all your porn.
Secretaries,
all
nurses,
your porn. Shannon
anyone,
Tweed comes out of this.
I mean, that led to the Gone with the Wind of Skinamax movies, Scorned, with Shannon
Oh,
Tweed.
yes.
Which is an amazing movie. She has sex with everyone in the family. She just runs through. I think the dog might have gotten through unscathed, but everyone else.
Oh, God.
Who plays these parts if they remade this movie in 2019? I thought was an interesting, unanswerable question. Who'd you want?
Who would I want?
Who'd you want?
I would just want Michael Douglas and Glenn Close to do it again.
So you would never do that. Okay.
Oh, man. That's
I
a good
feel like it would go
question.
badly with like Jennifer Aniston as Glenn Close.
You just
like,
couldn't
just fuck it
do
up.
it. Like, but because the thing that you have to be thinking about when you cast this, and this is why this is why the fights over Glenn Close were probably so intense. Like you in the 80s, everybody was sexy, and Glenn Close had never been really given a chance to be sexy or like to do this kind of overt sexiness.
They started remaking these movies with all black casts about 5 years ago.
That's true.
And they did it with there was a Beyonce movie where she's basically an archer.
Obsessed.
Yeah. And
Obsessed.
I forget who was
Ali Larter.
Ali Larter.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the same premise of it, but
No
they just
Good
remake that
Deed.
movie.
Yeah,
over
no,
it.
it's but who would even
What's funny, because we used to talk about this when we did podcasts at Grantland about instead of remaking movies, just make it all
the
black
race,
cast
or change the gender,
flip the gender, whatever.
Right.
And they've actually really been doing this. I just watched one. I watch all of them. I watched The Intruder with Dennis Quaid, where he wouldn't leave his house.
Yeah.
Not bad.
They left a lot on the table.
They left a lot, but I always enjoy those movies. It's like, something's wrong.
That really could have been the racial homeowner like melodrama, like blank from hell.
Well, that's what they don't consult with us. Any other unanswerable questions for you, Mel?
Did Dan become a partner at the law firm after all this? Because they have that celebration dinner. They're prematurely celebrating what they think this lunch with the boss represents. I want to know.
I don't think they find out. I don't think Fred Gwynn finds out that any of this happened.
Did Dan and Beth stay married?
Yes.
Yes. I think it's too important.
I think the answer is
it's too
yes.
important to her to not get divorced.
I wish that Beth had gone and, followed her bliss, found herself a man worthy of her, but I don't think that's what's happened. I'm just as interested in looking the other way, though. Had Dan cheated before? We don't really know if this was like I've really never done anything like this and never would kind of transgression from him, or if this is something that he just doesn't really think about.
I think that he's thought, the thing that the looks on his face after all of the sex are this is like a dream coming true.
I think this was the 80s. You just did stuff and didn't think about the consequences.
I like that your rationale for a lot of this is, it's 30 years ago. Nobody was
doing cocaine like it was Pez back then.
Oh, I love Pez. Another one, I want to know who Alex was supposed to go on the date with. Because when she's having that first one at the
She made
restaurant.
that up.
Yeah.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
I think she made it up too.
I don't know. Maybe. It's definitely possible. It's probably even probable.
I think she was.
But if not,
She's so casual about
date?
it though. I had a date. I stood him up.
No.
well, but we know
That
that
was
she.
the phone call I made for. I don't believe it.
I don't know though. I think that she has. Again, this is one of the questions. I wish we knew more. Does she have a romantic life? You know, she tells Dan that she didn't think that she could get pregnant, which would indicate that she's had moments where she tried, or at least could have. I don't know. I want to know more about that. That's an unanswerable question. How did Alex know exactly where Dan was going to go to rent that car?
Oh, good one. I thought about that. I really did think about
Following
that.
him.
Yeah.
Great follower.
There's some things in movies where I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, last one. Who won the movie?
Quincy.
Quincy the dog?
No, it's Glenn Close.
Glenn Close.
Obviously.
Close.
This is an easy one.
Glenn
Wow,
Close.
we did this under 2 hours.
Barely.
Fatal attraction. None of us will be ignored.
Barely.
None of us.
Wesley Morris, Mallory Rubin, thank you.